Hello and thank you for joining us on the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Uzubaku. Today on the program, Amaechi, Onu, Akpabio and others join Nwajiuba to resign from President Buhari's cabinet over 2023 presidential ambition as Ngige, Malami and Sylva are yet to quit. And later on the show, Chief of Staff to the President Gambari meet ASU over strike as student protests at APC Secretariat. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Ibinabo Dixon, who is making a debut on the show today. Welcome, Ibinabo.
Thank you very much.
Jide, you should welcome Ibinabo.
Welcome to our pad.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
So, if you are ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. Lightning, they say, does not strike twice at a place, but the Nigerian security situation is defying this statement. Another explosion has rocked Taraba State, northeast Nigeria. 6 soldiers of the 93 Battalion of the Nigerian Army in Takum have been killed after an ambush by bandits. The commander of the operation is still missing. The police also confirmed a bomb blast at the headquarters of the 6th Brigade of the Nigerian Army in Jalingo. Let's hear from the police spokesman in the states.
So on the 10th, around 0600 in the morning, there was the Fulani militias invaded a town called Tati on the Takundohogom, where they start shooting sporadically, and then certain houses are blessed. Many houses were burned down, and then people were running for their dear lives. And on that incident, the joint patrol team of military and the mobile policemen of 67 PMF and then 93 Battalion, headed by Lieutenant Colonel Eminike also. He led the team to that place with a view of restoring normalcy there, so that this crisis could not escalate to the neighboring towns and villages. 6 of these military personnel were killed, and 1 mobile police officer was also killed. And presently, the commanding officer leading this very operation is missing, declared by his 2IC that he is missing, is nowhere to be found.
Before we go to the terrorist attack in Taraba State, I've just gathered that the Minister of Transport, that's Rotimi, Honorable Rotimi Amaechi, has just been told that is yet to resign as the Minister of Transport. Is yet to resign. He's still the Minister of Transport. I'm sure by Monday next week, after the deadline, we'll know those who are in and those who are out. Now, Jide, this Taraba thing, I don't know. It's never, as we pointed out 2 weeks ago, Taraba is not known for this kind of carnage. Right now, I don't know what has been happening in the last 1 week.
It's very clear now that Boko Haram terrorists, or ISWAP as they are also called, now have active cells in Taraba State, because terrorist attacks were not known to take place in Taraba State, even at the height of the Boko Haram insurgency. But in the last few weeks, we've seen ISWAP go to kill people in Biapalo, in Taraba State, as in Gasol local government. Gasol local government is very close to Jalingo, the state capital. And now this attack, this ambush on troops, the way the attack was carried out has the imprimatur of the Boko Haram terrorists. So we've got to do better in terms of protecting our people in Taraba State, because Taraba is facing a different kind of threat now. And this is not just banditry, there is terrorism as well, because if you are bombing public buildings, then that's not banditry, that falls within the definition of terrorism. So effort must be made to secure that state better, because the people are not used to what they are saying now, and this is just the beginning. Certainly it will get worse if we do not arrest this development. Kidnapping an officer is not something that happens regularly in the armed forces. Somebody of the rank of lieutenant colonel taken away by terrorists is not
big embarrassment.
Yes, it's a very big embarrassment. It was just it was leading his people to respond to the threats on communities, and they took him away. So
how do we now stem this tide? Because it's like a canker worm, it's like a cancer spreading. Taraba never used to be in that axis of, where we have terrorist attack being about.
So I feel that the governor of Taraba has to be up and about concerning security in the state, because I remember sometime last year, Taraba, Nasarawa, and Niger State were under threat. And this particular local government, the former, the military, then the retired military defense, yes, is his local government, and even the governor, that is his local government. And this same thing happened last year. People were killed, soldiers, policemen, and even civilians were killed. And you see, the problem I see in all of this is that when something like this happens, if you go to that particular place now, it's bombarded with so many security operatives here and there. And as soon as the storm calms, we go back to our usual selves. So now, the point is, I was trying to recollect what a particular chairman then for that local government, the Takum local government, said. He said, these terrorists, they reside in the forest surrounding that area. So, and the governor of that state is an architect, is an urban developer. So, I'm a layman. If you take me to a vast field, I don't know what to do with it, but if you take an architect there or an urban developer there, he knows exactly what to do. So what I'll just say is that this governor of Taraba State should please put his profession to use. How do you comb the extremities of your state? Because if they leave it, last year it happened, now it has happened. And it's going to continue like that. So until we make sure that when we quell any form of security threat in any state, we don't just do it and walk away. What is the solution? How do we completely take care of it? I know that it's not possible to completely say we're going to have 100% security, but at least do something. Don't just stem the tide and then leave it, because they will come back.
The reality facing us here is that I think for some time terrorism has come to stay in Nigeria, because I was looking at it since 2009. We've not had kind of any respite, and instead of it, we are having banditry coupled with terrorism, and the thing is expanding. It's not looking as if
it's spreading because we have not done enough to defeat terrorists, to defeat bandits in our country. We used to have terrorism limited to those 3 states of the Northeast. Adamawa, Yobe, and Borno State. In Yobe, they were even present in just 2 local governments. In Adamawa, they were present in 7 local governments. Then in Borno, they were present in 17 local governments. Later on, they left only the Maiduguri metropolitan. Occasionally, they will still carry out terrorist attacks, even in Maiduguri metropolitan area. Now, because we have failed to crush them, we have not come up with the right tactics to deal with the threat that they constitute, you can now see that they are spreading. When you attack them at a particular location, they move elsewhere. we have said that the best way to deal with this threat is to have simultaneous military operation across all the states where we know that they constitute a threat to us. But what we've been doing is actually piecemeal attacks on the areas where we know they are present. That will not work because a lot of these states link one another. Taraba, for example, you can get into Taraba through Benue. And a lot of these bandits and terrorists, they are very active in Benue State. In fact, the governor was saying that states that local government that are safe in Benue are not even up to 5. So they will move to another. It's clear now that they've moved into Taraba because we are getting a lot of these negative reports. They've moved in, and what we need to do is try our best to deal with the situation, ensure that they do not even spread beyond Taraba, because before you know it now, you hear that they are operating in Adamawa and Gombe states that are really close to Taraba State.
All right. It was the 32nd President of the United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt, who once quipped that in politics, nothing happens by accidents. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way. After months of speculation over decision on zoning of the 2023 presidency, Nigeria's main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has decided to throw open its presidential tickets to all comers. In a communique at the end of its National Executive Council meeting in Abuja, the PDP also planned to work towards a consensus candidate where possible and appointed former President of the Senate, that's David Mark, as the chairman of the National Convention Committee. Today we saw this coming, and we don't expect anything less from the People's Democratic Party. It's barely 2 weeks to their presidential primaries, and we know it was enshrined in their constitution, but this time around, because of the exigency, what they call the exigency of time, they had to just jettison the zoning thing, and it's now like an all-comers affairs. It is an all-comers affairs for their presidential tickets, up for grab.
Yes,
everybody.
It's the same pattern that we are seeing with the APC. The APC and the PDP have been copying one another for some time. Remember when the PDP decided that North and South should swap positions in their National Executive Council? They also, APC did the same thing. And that was why people were speculating that the APC had decided to zone the presidency to the South. We had to come on this program to debunk that, that claim. And as we have seen now, the APC doesn't appear to have any plan to zone the presidency to the South. This is the same thing that has happened in the PDP. What they are saying now is, look, this agitation didn't come early enough, that people had bought forms, people had been making consultations, screening had been done. We can't be talking about zoning at this time. But it all seems like just cheap excuses, in my view, that they are given, because you can't say, oh, people had been screened. When they do even screen people, you screen people just recently. The agitation for zoning had been there for so long.
And they would have taken a position.
If you wanted to take a position, you would have taken a position. But you left it too late. Now, when the 37-member committee submitted this report, led by, you then said, oh, this thing is too late. At this time, for the presidency, we can't be talking about zoning. Zoning still remains an integral part of their constitution in the APC, in the PDP. In Akwa Ibom, for example, they've adopted zoning for various positions within the party in Akwa Ibom the state, that's PDP. But what they are saying now is that at the national level, this presidency, they cannot be talking about zoning at this time because it's too late in the day, and they let everyone just go and test its popularity, and where feasible, they can try the consensus option. mark you, that is what looks like is going to happen even in the APC. You have allowed people to take forms here and there. If you suddenly decide, okay, you are going for zoning, whom are you going to appeal to step down when you allow them to buy forms and then you screen them? No one does that. So from the beginning, I think they were not ready to go for this zoning. The two parties are monitoring one another. Neither of the parties wants to take a step that the other one will now exploit. For example, everyone knows that in terms of population, the North is ahead. But the North itself cannot win an election without substantial votes also. Northern candidate can win an election without substantial votes coming from the South. Shagari became president with a lot of votes coming from the South-South. It was not known then as South-South geopolitical zone, but Cross River, all those areas. Shagari got tremendous votes from those areas, you know. So no candidate, whether you are from the North or the South, you need that spread. But what they are looking at is, oh, the North has greater population than the South. If we by mistake or by design choose a candidate from the South and the other people choose a candidate from the North, it could favor the party that has chosen. So they are monitoring one another. Remember even in 2018 how they were postponing each other's primaries just to be able to see what the opponent is about to do before taking their own decision. That's basically what we are saying. We are going to see that at the end of the day, it is what the PDP has done that the APC will eventually do by throwing it open to everyone.
Been about the APC, the PDP governors from the South, they've kicked against this severally, and they've always said power should come to the South. How do you think this will pan out in PDP?
Obviously, they're not going to be very happy about it. But, you know, the problem here is that, just like Babajide said, it's like PDP is checking out what APC is doing, the same thing. APC is doing the same thing too. So at the end of the day, it's like the way they are going about it is like they don't have a particular plan. Whatever it is they had has been discarded. So what they are doing now is whatever tactics PDP is bringing on board, they want to overthrow it. So whatever APC is doing, PDP wants to do same. So it's all about winning this election. At the end of the day, you see that it's not like they really bother about who bought form or who didn't buy form or zoning.
How about the regions involved? The Southeast, South, and Southwest people that are involved.
It's unfortunate, but I mean, politics it's a game of numbers. So, like Obajide rightly analyzed, if you look at those who really come out to vote, take into cognizance the statistics. We know where the highest votes usually come from. So what are we doing? Down south, a lot of people are not patient enough to even try to get their PVC, let alone voting. So if you, the parties have become like enterprise. So I want to make profit. So I'm not going to say because I'm supposed to zone it down south, knowing fully well that down south might not give me the necessary votes I need to excel. So wisdom told them that they should leave it open. So, go show your worth. Like I watched a previous journalist hangout where Governor Rochas was talking about the 3 categories of candidates, aspirants. One of the categories will be hoping that Mr. President would support them. The other will believe that they have the money to play the game. And then the third set of people would believe that they have the crowd. So indirectly, the two parties are playing the same game. They are playing the same game. So it's unfortunate that it is playing out like this, but I don't think they should be surprised.
Quickly, Babajide,
anyway.
before we leave this topic, a lot of people, I've been going through online polls, I've been going through, nothing happens online that affects what is on ground. I know, because most of these people online, they don't even come out to vote. But when you look at their online polls, the exit polls, they will tell you that a lot of people will say somebody like former Governor Peter Obi, in the People's Democratic Party, is like their favorite.
Very strong.
He has program, he has everything, and he has been able to prove himself over time and everything. But it cannot, when you talk in terms of, the spread of delegates and they should converse, I don't see Peter will be marching up to Atiku Abubakar.
Well, let's be fair to him so that they don't accuse us of dismissing his chances. But we know that the audience online is different. You are not going to win an election online. You are not going to win an election on social media. You have to engage the delegates. And in this case, you know that it's the person with the deepest pockets that is likely to win. That is, if we go down memory lane, even when Obasanjo was president, they shared dollars to people before the winner eventually emerged. So, and Peter Obi doesn't look like the kind of person ready to spend that kind of money. He's a rich man, but he's extremely frugal. And in our kind of politics, you are not going to do well if they can see that you are not prepared to spend money on them. You have to match what the enemy is spending, or I said enemy, what the opponent is spending. Peter Obi is not that kind of person. He may be honest. I like him as a person. And I think he did well as governor of that state, no doubt about it. But is he ready to play the game? The Atiku, for example, is already very adept at playing that game. That's why,
you understand,
even today at his age, you still can't dismiss his chances of winning. So is he prepared to play the game the way an Atiku will play it? If you ask me, my answer will be no. So I think that basically, Nigerians, the way our politics is, people will not vote for you simply because they think you are honest or that you will not steal their money. They won't vote for you based on that.
All right. Rightly or wrongly, people need to be pushed most often before they do that which is right. After the directive by President Buhari that members of his cabinet who have political ambition regarding 2023 elections to resign, some of them have started complying. They include, I mentioned earlier that we don't have confirmation to the first name there, and we can confirm the one of Science and Technology, that's Bunaya Onu, and Niger Delta Affairs Minister, that's Godswill Akpabio, and others have joined Minister of State for Education, Nwajiuba, to resign over their presidential ambition. But the likes of Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, Justice Minister Abubakar Malami, and Minister of State for Petroleum, Sylva, are yet to quit. Now, the president's directive kind of changed the dynamics, altered the political equation, and to add to the present the directive, the secretary to the government of federation, the SFG, what's his name? Boss Mustafa actually signed a release now adding head of agencies, ambassadors, and many of these government MDAs. And if you know you have political ambition, this directive affects you. So they started complying. What do you make of this situation?
They should, because obviously you occupy an office, and you want to transit to another. You should leave the former office so that we don't use that office to manipulate things. That is probably what the Mr. President is thinking.
If you remember, it never used to be like that.
Yes, because every now and then, you see, the dynamics are changing. A lot of things are just happening. things that, like, look at the way, people were buying the forms for 100 million naira, and see the humongous amounts of money that the party made. So many things are happening that are so unprecedented. So what I see in all of this is that, it is only fair what Mr. President has said. If it is not okay by you, then, give your reasons, because you can't hold two positions. And then again, that office needs you. So as you are going about trying to, lobby people, delegates to, pen you down and make sure that they vote for you or they choose you as a candidate, you're going to be very busy. It's a very busy time. So you don't have time for your office, so you might as well step aside.
Conflict of interest.
Yes.
Jide, as we predicted, we knew it's going to be difficult for Abubakar Malami to leave that seat. Yes, our friend, we knew it's going to be difficult because that seat gives him the leverage, the power.
The Constitution recognizes that Nigeria as the most senior minister. And is the only minister that the president cannot delegate his duties to anyone. He's the only minister that must be educationally qualified for the job. You can make somebody who's not a doctor a health minister. We've done it before.
Specified, yes.
We've done it in this country before. We made a pharmacist minister of health. But you can't make someone who is not a lawyer an attorney general. And you cannot delegate his duties to anyone. So by hierarchy in the cabinet, is the most senior minister. And we all know that this position confers a lot of powers, a lot of influence and all that, because you are constantly in the ears of the president. Yes. He needs your advice before taking big decisions. He was his lawyer during the CPC days and all that. So the president had known him for some time. So now he wants to be governor. He's been coy about it, but we know that he has ambitions to be. He has an ambition to become governor. Otherwise, he wouldn't be spending all that money. We know, but I think that Mr. President ought to have made it clear from the beginning. You do not wait for the Minister of State for Education to take a decision on his own to leave before now telling others that, look, I expect
to follow suit.
Yes.
Okay. Let's really take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. Stay with us. Welcome back. So, we are still looking at the politics of 2023. Jide, before we went on break, we were talking about this minister with the juicy position that the minister of Attorney General.
The Attorney General. I still think that some of them will leave latest by Monday, because even the issue of who to hand over to and tidying things before handing over. Talking about this kind of critical ministries, you've got to be careful. So some of them will take their time, hand over, and then leave. I don't see how. Look at Ogbonna Ono. He's one of the closest to the president. They've been friends for years, since their APC days.
Not APP. APP. Sorry, APP.
You know, before it became AMPP, before CPC. So if he could leave immediately, that's a man who has integrity, and that's why a lot of people respect him. So he's left. What are you waiting for? And for this minister especially, the distance between Abuja and Kebbi State is such that there is no way your work will not suffer. If you are chasing how to become governor and still holding on to your position. So in the past, we never had things this way, whereby you literally have to beg people to resign. Once they show an interest in contesting, they leave on their own. I don't know what's going on these days. That you have to be told to leave? No.
Do you think some of them are afraid that the coast is not too clear?
Of course.
Of course. I might not get this thing, and I won't be allowed to come back.
I'm sure that some of them will have a conversation with the president and will ask the question, if I lose, can I come back? Can you give me that guarantee, sir, that if I lose? Because someone like my friend, the Minister of Labour, who said he wants to talk to the President first and get clarification. The clarification is in the memo that the SGF issued. Why do you still need to talk to the President before determining whether you are going to leave? The conversation will be, Mr. President, this primary election is just a matter of a few weeks. If I lose, would you be happy to let me return to my job? And for some of them, the President says yes, they will be happy to come back.
Would that be legal?
Huh?
Would they have to go through the screening and what they went through before?
I don't know how they are going to handle somebody who, for some of them who look at, some of them who had been in the National Assembly before, you know, it's not going to be, even if they do screening, they will just tell them, take a bow, they will leave. So it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I know that by Monday, some of them will leave. But look at
This is Oga. This is born in Tallinn. That's Minister of Women Affairs.
Yes, even this Ahmad, the new media aide to the president, that Kano boy, he has resigned. He wants to go to the House of Reps. He resigned quickly. So there's no big deal.
So what do you make of their position now? Should they leave and be allowed to come back, or leave and it's like a gamble? That's
At this point, they have to make a choice, and they have made their choices. So they have to leave. They have to leave. You can't, I mean...
Some can withdraw their presidential nomination.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I still have this job till next year, March.
And I'm very sure, bird in hand.
Yes.
If they have that mindset, they should go ahead. But you can't run two homes, for example. You are a minister. I mean, the job itself is humongous. Now you want to begin to campaign to be, to be the candidate of your party. That in itself is humongous. So it's not possible to handle the two positions. So they have to relinquish one for the other. And I want to feel that if anyone that has gone ahead to leave the office, I mean, why you shouldn't come back. You shouldn't come back if it is, I mean, if you are looking at it holistically, because you made your choice. You were given options and you have made your choice.
I think the fact that the president was silent on whether they could leave or not encouraged a lot of them to get into the race. It encouraged a lot of them to get into the race because maybe they felt, look, nobody will make it compulsory for us to...
We have a caller. Isedu is calling us from Abuja. Thank you for joining us, Isedu.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
All right. Hello?
Isedu, you are live.
Good evening, President.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, my own contribution is that what I've seen in all this spinning out is that we have been too self-centered and selfish. Because if we had wanted peace and harmony, the best thing to have done was to just zone this thing to the southeast. And all the permutations we are doing, more population here, more population there, will not really have mattered. It will have just been a battle for them in the east that to resolve. That's my humble contribution on this.
That's
all right.
And Jide, looking at even all the MDGs, the other government agencies, it will be affecting our friend like Dr. Godwin Emefiele if he decides to go ahead to pick that nomination form. It will affect him.
Of course. Of course.
He must leave his present position.
If people, even people occupying lowly positions like the aide of the president of new media, if he could leave, why wouldn't the governor of the central bank leave? That's not a job to combine with politics, even in the first place. It's unheard of. I'm saying that so many oddities are happening in this season, and it should not continue. Once you want to throw your hat in the ring, you want to contest the election, you know what to do. Step aside. Let someone else continue the job. And in the very recent past, we saw an Adelabu, deputy governor of the CBN, he left. to contest for governor in
Oyo State,
and he didn't win. But he didn't go
he
back.
didn't go back
Because he had left for
you have
good.
to calculate the risk.
So it's just, I don't know. I'm waiting to see. You see, the deadline will soon expire. Let us see whether the president.
We even have
says
funny
some of
situations that some people, if like a contingency plan, they've taken that form, presidential nomination, they've taken senatorial nomination, and they are very quiet about that, knowing that, look, if I, like the Senate president, were told, took the form for presidential nomination, and at the same time, he took his own Senate. You know, he can't afford that Senate. He has been there since like forever, so he can't afford to leave that seat if he doesn't clinch the candidacy.
Okay, what does that tell? That shows clearly that this is, it's not about service to the people. It's about selfish interest. And you see, what is playing out is interesting. And whatever tactics the two major parties are bringing to bear, they shouldn't forget one fact. The electorate are watching. They are watching carefully the games the two parties are playing. And I can say, you know, I can't really say for a fact, but I think from what I've heard from a few persons here and there, I think if they're not careful, it will affect them. Because, you see, the electorate we had in 2019 and the ones we have now, they are more informed, they are ready. I mean, some things are clearer now. So whatever game, APC, PDP, whatever game they are playing, people are watching. So be careful the game you play so that you don't end up preparing the rope that is going to use to hang you.
Now, I don't think, Julie, from my own estimation, and as a political pundit that have been covering the game for a long time, I don't have this feeling that that miracle can happen. That, oh, this current set of electorates, that they will rebel against PDP and APC. That within this time and the next time of election, that a party will just spring up and a lot of people will make up their mind. There will be this kind of rebellion against the status quo.
No, you can't have a wholesale rejection of any of the big parties. What will happen is the same thing that happened during the last election, whereby the PRP, the SDP,
the New Nigerian Party,
ADC. In this case now, Kwankwaso has formed a new party, a new Nigerian party. He knew that he could not go to either of the parties because in Kano, his enemies dominate the two parties and the leadership position in both parties. So he saw that he could not go there. We analyzed the situation that he found himself before he took that decision to start that party. And it just wasn't looking good for him. If you go to the APC, the governor is there. The governor and Shekarau. So he had to start a new party. So what we are going to see are cases like, okay, you force this candidate on us here, then we vote PRP.
Instead of
PRP
the mainstream parties.
In Bauchi, where there was a big crisis within the APC, PRP reaped bountifully. Go and check. Even national law, some of their candidates became national lawmakers. So they did very well. In Kano too, PRP also had some candidates of their own. The party, became a little bit famous during that period because it offered alternatives to people cheated within those two big parties.
Okay. Peculiar.
So you see
not
people
on the national scale.
No, okay. You will see people win elections from candidates of small parties.
Ama from Abakaliki, I think that's the capital of Ebonyi State. Thank you for joining us. Ama, are you there? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, my encyclopedia.
I greet you, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Let's have your opinion.
Yes,
He's listening to himself.
good evening.
Just keep talking.
Yes. Please, those people who have bottom and refuse to resign, I am trying to organize some people. I'm trying to organize some people who are consulting. We should fight a form as Tokumbo form. So that we can pay the next amount of money and then contest. Since they don't want to resign from their post, let them send their different Tokumbo form, nomination form, so that we can contest. Thank you very much. Please, Hospital.
Yeah, I don't understand
Tokumbo form. So you are running up on your analysis on.
Yes, that's what we'll see. We can't have a third force. It's not easy to form a big party. See how many parties came together to form the APC. And
look at the time that it was formed.
See, if not for the crisis in the PDP, the APC would not have formed government.
Yeah.
It's that crisis that they reaped bountifully from.
The 5 governors that walked away.
See, there were candidates who lost primaries in APC, I mean PDP. By the next day, they contested the primaries of the PDP and won. Somebody like the governor of Kebbi State now. Somebody like Otom. You know, so if it's not easy to dislodge a ruling party, especially a new party, because the crisis was humongous, getting to the point that they even worked out on a sitting president. You know, so that's what
the national convention.
Yes, so you cannot. It's not easy for a third force to just come. People do not change their opinion rapidly like that. It's just like you've been used to buying a particular kind of dress. Before they convince you, or a perfume, for example, before they convince you to settle for another perfume, it will take a while. You know, so that's the same thing with this political party. They will keep moving from APC back to PDP, from PDP. But for a new party to just come and then will be accepted,
both parties are
by
different between, like difference between 6.5. It's not almost the same thing.
But what if, let's take for instance a particular person. I don't want to mention any of them. Maybe is not picked by the party, and another set of parties, maybe 2-3 other parties, did a merger, and then they call him into the party to.
Are not strong enough.
They won't be strong enough.
The fragments.
They won't be strong. There's
something
called structure in political. You won't have the structures.
I know, but
and you can't win without those structures.
Across the length.
On election day, that is when you know the value of having structures. Because it's those structures that will get out the voters for you.
Yes.
That will help you to ensure that you get more people to go and vote.
Can you afford that agent? You want over 120,000 polling units.
It is
your agent there.
Why is the APC winning in Lagos?
All right.
That's the reason.
And finally, there's faint hope on the table regarding the ongoing strike by university workers. The chief of staff to President Muhammadu Buhari, that Professor Ibrahim Gambari, is having a meeting with the striking members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, the Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions, NASU, and other unions in the university. The meeting is at the instance of the Minister of Labour and Employment, Ngige, on how to resolve the logjam. This looks like a good one.
Yeah, I just hope that we'll finally get to the end of this mess. The minister told me that they are taking some steps that could lead ultimately to the resolution of this problem. But until I see concrete signs that this whole problem is coming to an end, I won't be excited that at last we are coming to the end of this crisis. And if we are not careful, the students will resort to violence. We are seeing more and more cases of protest students blocking highways and all that. This could eventually lead to bloodshed. So it's better we get this matter resolved quickly. I'm happy and also unhappy. The Sano people too have come up with a payment platform of their own, different to that of UTAS that ASU has come up with. And I'm like, how many payment platforms will come from the university? But from the university environment. But the Minister of Education is saying that government will not foreclose having a look or putting their own alternative to test. He's saying the ministry and the government are always open to new ideas. I must also tell you that I'm not an expert to know that this one is workable or better than what is already available or better than what is being proposed by ASU. But what I know, in the end, we will probably have to accept the situation, and your own platform may have some edge in a particular area. UTAS may have an edge, and then these two platforms can be used to make IPPIS better. So it sounds like he has not ruled out possibility of using either of those payment platforms. But people will say, why would an employee choose how to be paid? But the situation is, the university environment is different. For example, their own retirement age is 65, and they are allowed to do sabbatical. So while on sabbatical, you earn salary from your parent university and still earn money from the place where you are doing sabbatical and learning more, gaining more knowledge and all that. That's where the university system is different from the usual civil service setting. So IPPIS is not flexible enough to be used in the university setting, because it then means that these lecturers will lose a lot. And that's why they are saying, oh, let's come up with something different. I just hope that the chief of staff will be able to do something and get these children to return to school before things get really bad.
But do you think the way we've handled this thing so far, do you think it government would have handled it better?
I think so, because you see, when this issue started, how did they handle it? Now, talking about IPPIS and the UTAS, we are supposed to hear from Pantami based on this. You understand? Because the university, the lecturers, the ASU, they are saying that even the IPPIS is not corruption proof. You understand? So what have you got to say to defend that? Then why are we dragging this for so long? Is it not possible to bring in a neutral body? Okay, come and check out these two payment platforms. Is what ASU saying, is it correct? Is what the government saying, is it correct? Because from what ASU said, this IPPIS is being serviced by about 5 billion of such an amount of money per annum. It is being serviced by I think, within the region of 5 billion naira or thereabouts. So what they are saying is, if you discard IPPIS and you stick to UTAS, at least that money being spent to service it could be utilized for other things in the university. And then again, they are talking about revitalization of the universities. We have computer science department, computer engineering department. We should encourage these students. You keep children. You see, the question that I had on my mind was, if I sit face to face with the Minister for Education, what I would ask him is, if you had any of your children in the government universities, and you are not a minister, you're on the other side of the divide, as a parent, how would you view the minister? What would be your opinion of the minister? Because there was a time the students had a meeting with him. That's Adamu. Because they asked him a simple question. He walked out on them. This is how he's hugely discouraging. It shows that, I mean, ultimately, there is no interest for the Nigerian students. So if they are reacting at this time, I mean, it's long overdue. They have been pushed to the wall, and there's nothing to do than to fight back.
Judy, your passing shot on this.
Yes, I just hope that in the interest of the public university system, that government will do something. You need to see some buildings of some of these old universities. Students sit on the bare floor to receive instruction. I mean, this sort of things should not be happening. Now, you can't say that some of these demands are pointless. They just want something better. Our leaders are products of public universities. Those of them who went to school. They are products of public universities. We didn't have the Babcocks of this world. We didn't have them before. No. Even we too, we are products of public universities. We can't then sit down and watch the public university system collapse while they are coming up with new private universities every year. Giving them approval every year. Not everybody can afford to put children in universities where he will be paying 800,000 per semester. Per session. Not everybody can. The percentage of Nigerians who can afford that, I don't think they are more than 5%. So you still need these public universities, and that's the reason we must do our best to ensure that the public university system doesn't collapse. So with the Chief of Staff intervening now, that means the President is prepared to solve this problem, and we want to see the problem solved once and for all.
I want to thank you, Ibinabo Dixon. Thank you for your debut. We hope to see more of you.
I look forward to it. Thank you for having me.
And Vicky himself, thank you for always being there.
Thanks for having us.
And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11. Join us on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. for Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Welcome. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.